Hello again, Charlie Alpha Steve, still out walking. Something else that just occurred to me, may be of interest, the miners' strike. I've got a lot of sympathy for miners, but then I've got a lot of sympathy for Green Shield stamps and Woolworths and blacksmiths and local grocers and pubs. You know, times change and unfortunately there are victims. And the miners were victims, really, of changing times. And as police officers, we were expected to be engaged in public order, preventing breach of the peace, etc. And so we weren't really given the option of not policing miners, even though I had loads of miners in my family, which caused considerable concern. However, we had to support the other police officers, and so we went up to Yorkshire quite a lot and down to the Kent Pits. We were the Police Support Unit, PSU, and to start with, we had no concept of what we were facing. We had no equipment, we didn't even have shields. We were just there as cannon fodder, really. And it was only later that they decided that we could have shields and better helmets and things like that. But we were the Police Support Unit, and it was interesting times, and suddenly we were expected to do riot control training, and this was done in a plot in Gravesend, and it was used by the police to simulate riots and public disorder. And so we all took turns to go there and do it, and we'd practice getting on and off a bus, debussing as quickly as possible, and locking shields together, entering a property with a man with a sledgehammer, and all this sort of thing. And it was okay. But the funny thing about it was this: when they first started, they supplied big chunks of bricks and wood to simulate people throwing these things at the police, and they very quickly abandoned that on account of so many injuries, not to police officers or police constables, but to inspectors and above. And the reason for this was the tactics then was drawn very much from Rome, the Roman legions, and you'd have a whole row of police officers at the front with shields taking the brunt of the problem, and then you'd have others nearby. So within weeks of this training starting, there were so many inspectors that were injured because they stood about 50 yards back with just a little round shield, clearly identifying them as an inspector, and the idea being they could see what was going on and direct officers to the correct point. What they didn't realise was this: when the gun went off, i.e. let's start, all the policemen that were pretending to be protesters, instead of throwing the bricks and the wood at the row in front, the whole lot went towards the inspector at the back without exception. And so that's how the training changed quite rapidly from what they were doing to what they do now. But I thought that was a pretty good demonstration of human nature. Anyway, a very short story, but nonetheless, Charlie Alpha Steve signing off, over and out. See you next time. God bless.